The military advisor to the supreme leader of Iran, Rezai, he said yesterday that the United States wanted to send a warship through the Strait of Hormuz, but he said that we didn't and will not give them such permission to pass through this Strait. It's basically the U.S. Navy trying to help, these tankers. But one of the red lines since the ceasefire, since the MOU being signed, it was just no military, no warship coming to the Strait of Hormuz, which was another part of the violation of the MOU, because the whole talks was about, the commercial vessels or ships passing through, not no military, or no warship going there. And it seems that, because that's a crucial point, Anthony, for Iranians, when it comes to those bases in the Persian Gulf. They know that one of the main reasons that the United States want to use the Strait of Hormuz, they want to send more weapons to these bases, because most of those weapons or radars were destroyed. So what would you do? That's the red line for Iranians. And I think one of the main reasons of these confrontations, because the attacks last night were somehow much bigger than the last two attacks. That means that something has happened yesterday that we don't know. We don't have the full picture of what has happened yesterday. Maybe it's related to this warship that was trying to pass through the Strait of Hormuz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your assessment is, I would agree with that assessment in terms of what you provided first of what the MOU said. And again, this MOU is out the window. This MOU is gone. But looking back on that MOU, what existed, you're correct that there would be no military movement or military escorts through the Strait of Hormuz by the United States. We've obviously attempted to violate that with the attempted naval task force that I predict will attempt to push through the strait. That obviously blows that article out of the MOU. But as Donald Trump said, that MOU gone, done. Now, but what Donald Trump is trying to do with that is take the blame for that and place it on Iran. Well, because of Iran, MOU's out the window. Well, no, the truth is that MOU was already on life support because of US.
Yeah, Tony, I lost you. Can you hear me? Yeah, I think what Tony tries to tell us is he's basically pointing out the case of Lebanon, because the MOU, since the signing of the MOU, one of the main problems, that it was mentioned yesterday by the Iranian foreign minister, that there would be no agreement, final agreement between Iran and the United States as long as Israel is occupying the southern part of Lebanon. And we know that Israel is not going to get out of Lebanon. That's not going to happen by negotiations. And nobody would believe that. Yeah. Tony, you said, you're back. You said that the MOU was on, somehow in coma before, what has happened yesterday. So what was that reason, in your opinion?
Yeah, the Trump administration is attempting to make it seem as though this MOU is now dead because of Iran and Iran's recent actions. The fact of the matter is this MOU was already on critical life support. And because of the United States' inability to meet Article 1, i.e. Israel and Lebanon, unwilling and unable, and the United States unwilling to accept what was agreed upon and the execution therein of Article 5 with the Strait of Hormuz. So the United States put this MOU on life support weeks ago, especially when in the midst of negotiation, Donald Trump comes out and says, "Hey, we're gonna bomb you back into the Stone Age, or your negotiators won't make it home alive." So the United States beat up, drown, and put this MOU on life support. The walking away by Iran is clearly Iran maintaining its position of, no, we agreed to this. These 14 points we agreed to. You're going to meet it or you're not. There's no wiggle room. There's no gray area. We're not going to we're not going to allow Israel to kind of withdraw, symbolically withdraw from Lebanon. No, it's withdrawal, period. Start talking about the rest. The United States constantly tried to find loopholes or weave around that with, oh, let's talk about Hormuz. Let's have these technical talks. And it's now, again, as I said, it's very clear to me that the entire time, this whole pursuit of an MOU, this entire pursuit of these conditions that the United States was never willing to agree to and never willing to meet the demands of, was a ruse. It was all a lie. This was intended from the beginning. And I think, as I said earlier, I think that Iran is aware of that. And I think that Iran has prepared. And I think that China and Russia have provided capabilities to help them be prepared. So this is not going to be an easy fight for the United States. It wasn't in the first 62 days with a little hiatus of Project Freedom. It hasn't been easy thus far, and it's not going to get easier. The United States had the best option, the exit off of this highway to disaster. And we blew past that exit with this MOU. We're not going to get a better deal. The conditions for culmination of this conflict will be worse for the United States when this ends.
Yeah. Right now, the strait is open, but the northern part of the strait that is under the control of IRGC.
Yep.
Then, but the price of oil is going up, and right now it's $78. Yeah. This is when it comes to the priority of the United States, of Donald Trump and his administration. Do you think what would be more important for them, keeping the oil price down, or somehow helping, reducing the pressure from the global economy because of the oil and gas? Not only oil and gas, we know how many, minerals we have helium, we have, the case of fertilizers, all of these, important products that are getting out of the Strait of Hormuz. Which is the priority? Getting back to war, or somehow freeing up or opening the Strait of Hormuz, or the global economy, or the price? Which one is more important? Because if you get back to the war, it means that they're going to close the Strait of Hormuz totally. That's not going to help anybody, in my opinion. So is that going to help them, or are they going to continue with this tit for tat? I don't know what would be the outcome practically for the United States. What is your understanding of that? Tony, can you hear me? Yeah, it seems that, we have the problem with the connection. But I think the basic question right now for many people is, what is that? Is it some sort of tit for tat war, or are they going to get back fully to confront each other in the Strait of Hormuz? The reason I'm not that much, I don't see that a full war happening between the two sides because of the Strait of Hormuz and the importance of that for the global economy. And we know that Donald Trump, before signing the MOU, he said we are 4 weeks away from being the oil reserves in the United States being totally depleted, and they're getting to the critical. And we have, here is Tony. The problem is there still. But here is the problem for the United States. The timing is so important. Not only, Tony's back. I think you understand. You.
I heard everything. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's a great question, and something that is really important to understand is that oil prices were down. The Strait of Hormuz was open. Maybe the United States isn't going to get everything it wanted, but there's considerable concessions. But the Strait of Hormuz is open. Global supply, oil going down. Well, the United States understands that. Donald Trump understands that. Does Donald Trump necessarily care about the global economy? No. Does he care about how it impacts his polling and how it impacts his political survival? Yes. Does he care about the cost of oil in terms of at the pump because of how it affects his polling and how it affects his political survival, yeah, he doesn't care about the American people. And I'm not saying that to be, for this anti-Trump narrative. I'm saying that because he himself has said it. Donald Trump said it when asked that he doesn't care about the imposition on the American people, that this war is more important. So, to your point, going back to a war footing or going back to conflict in the Strait, it's closed, impact on global economy, impact on the oil. There's a time, time is of the essence. There's an expiration date now. We got the price of oil down. Things are stabilized. So Donald Trump has got to go in quick, and he's got to make something happen soon, which is why we're going to see these strikes, what we saw last night, which were more so than we've seen in quite a while since the early days of the conflict. We're going to see a lot of that. And Donald Trump has got to do something quick and soon to unlock the leverage, the Strait of Hormuz. He can't dilly-dally and just go 40, 50, 60 days. It's going to have to be soon. We're going to see that happen. So it's almost like if you're thinking of like, okay, I need to, I'm here, I need to get there. In order to do it, I have to go underwater. So I got to hold my breath. Well, that's not ideal. That's not an ideal way to survive. That's not an ideal way to live unless you're an aquatic being. So you hold your breath, you go up underneath, get up. Okay, time is of the essence. So that's why we're going to see the escalation of these strikes spike with attempts to operationally change the political leverage. And that's going to be the Strait of Hormuz. And would we also see something on Karg Island as, when operations in the area of interest, let's call the Strait of Hormuz the area of operations. Well, then within that area of interest, you certainly have Oman, the coast of Iran, and Karg Island as other factors of key terrain that whomever holds those at bay has leverage over the other in a certain condition. So we're going to see that. We're going to see ground forces with pushing Kurds further into Iran. We're going to see attempts to isolate or contain or take Karg Island. We're going to see naval activity to include maybe even it's possible that we might see an airborne operation or what's called a vertical envelopment to seize Qasem Island, to seize the airfield on Qasem Island, because you also would want to do that if you're the US. You want to do that in order to potentially expand your air power, drones, helicopters. Imagine, if you will, if you're trying to maintain control of the strait and you could helicopters and well, you would get in the direction is to coming. So if you can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
You're back.
So if you can seize the other side to maintain an air corridor, that would be ideal. I think the United States is going to attempt to seize and attain an air corridor, Qasem to Oman or Qasem to the other side, and then a naval blockade on the north and south. And that's going to give what Donald Trump thinks will be his ability to come back and say, look, I control the strait now. I'm the captain. It's mine. I dictate. You want to negotiate? And the clock is ticking, because Iran might be able to hold out and say, hold it. We're not giving in. So either way you cut it, Iran controls it or the US controls it, and then having to shut it down, because if you open it again, well, you give it right back to Iran. It's called checkmate. And the US is in it. And it's not a good position to be in.
Yeah. Tony, when it comes to the invasion of Qasem Island or Karg Island, if they do that, that would be hugely problematic. I think the casualty is going to go up the way that the United States has never seen since the war in Vietnam. And I don't know what is the United States prepared to go that far?
Well, I don't think that the administration is prepared, because I do not think that the administration understands or comprehends the risk, nor does the administration really care. I don't think the Trump administration, to include Pete Hegseth or Donald Trump or Marco Rubio care about American lives in terms of our service members. I think they see it a means to an end. So in terms of compassion or care, no. So then what's the what's the transactional aspect to have any consideration towards that? Would be the weight on the popularity of the president at home. So this is why I think that we're going to see the operations. Can you hear me? You got me? Okay, so this is why I think we'll see the operations be done with surgical precision, not broad brush. The Strait of Hormuz, a lot of naval forces with key ground forces as needed, but limited. Whereas if an airfield seizure of Qasem Island succeeds, then more could come. If that fails, well, then we abandon that course of action. Will there be casualties? Yes, but it would be fewer than if you sent the entire assault force, the amphibious assault group at once in an attempt to take it all at one time. Same with Karg Island. There's different ways to maintain control or to isolate key terrain or a key objective other than having to put boots on the ground. So taking control or isolating or maintaining control of Karg Island may not require boots on the ground. Having the Strait of Hormuz at bay and having leverage through air and sea might not require boots on the ground. Will it be enhanced by boots on the ground strategically in positions on Karg and Qasem Island? It would. But I don't know what the risk calculus in terms of, so every commander, this is, Donald Trump is kind of giving the orders, but he's not making the plan. And every commander's staff comes back to that commander with courses of action to the Joint Force Commander for options, flexible response options of military power, but then also provides assessments of risk. For example, the staff would come to the commander of U.S. Central Command and say, Admiral Cooper, here's course of action 1, here's course of action 2, here's course of action 3. These courses of actions will execute A, B, and C. Here are the associated risks with each. If we do this, we reduce risk. If we do this, we increase risk. What the commander's calculus of risk is, I don't know. However, typically, if we're going by doctrine, the loss could be substantial in terms of respective to what the United States is accustomed to in losses in previous conflict. Over the last 20 plus years of being at war, we've lost more service members to related domestic accidents in the United States than we lost in war. So the United States is kind of accustomed to lower rates of soldier wounded in action or killed in action. So these could be numbers that, though the commander may say, that's within my calculus of risk, it still could be very shocking to the United States. And I don't think a lot of Americans know right now. You can go to the Department of Defense casualty notification site, the DoD CAF site, and you can find that the casualties thus far, most were tracking, 12 or 13, a few hundred wounded. We're at 23 killed in action and 408 wounded in action. So that number we could see that number in one period of day, depending on what operation we're looking at, especially if you were to lose a missile, a cruiser, a missile destroyer, a cruiser, a littoral combat ship, or God forbid, the USS Boxer or the USS Tripoli. And remember, the USS Boxer and the USS Tripoli, they are flat top aircraft carriers, but they aren't as big and as massive as the Ford and the Bush and the Reagan and the Roosevelt. They're swift and fast, but they're also vulnerable. And I'll say it again, if anybody doubts the effectiveness of maritime drones and small boats and that type of warfare, simply look to the Russian fleet and how Ukraine sank it. Very possible.